Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session on high quality kindergartens. We'll be exploring what a high quality kindergarten actually looks like. My name is Patricia Mezu from Professional Minds. My company is we are consultant specialists focusing on quality provision within early childhood education. Our aim is to serve leaders within the field and to guide you towards excellence in a practical and easy to replicate way. Once again, welcome, and I hope you're sitting comfortably, and I'd like you to grab a notepad to make notes as we go along. All right, so today we will be focusing on three things. As always, we focus on the definition, so we work from what is research-based. We move on to practice, because everyone has to have a takeaway, and then we leave time for reflection to consider what you have learned during the session. There are areas for questions and there are areas for learning. With respect to timing, we like to keep things short and to the point. I realize that people are busy, and I also believe in taking information and putting it into practice. Otherwise, it simply remains a theory in our brains or something that sounds nice, which will not necessarily move you as a leader forward. Here are our learning outcomes. First of all, to put everything that you have learned into practice, to move you a step closer to outstanding practice, and to have a clearer definition of high quality provision within early childhood education. Essentially asking yourself the question, what would it look like in my nursery, in my kindergarten, if everything was functioning to the highest standard, which would be outstanding? Right, so we're back onto the next slide, which is linked to something that I call the 3Bs. I think this is great for practice, and it can be transferred into any area of your work. The first one is beginning with the end in mind, so that if we have an idea of where we want to be at the end, we consider where we are at the beginning and plan accordingly. So if, as a result of this session, you decide, I want to be more competent when it comes to defining a high quality kindergarten, then during the session you'll be taking notes with a view to possibly sharing with your team and impacting your team. So begin with the end in mind. Be intentional. So set your intentions from the beginning. What do you want to take away from this? How are you going to share it? Will there be any resources that you will choose to buy at the end of this session? Is there anything that you would be looking up online, etc., etc.? And finally, be reflective. Let's look at definitions. A high quality kindergarten is about creating a caring community of learners. So immediately you'll see that it's not just about your immediate surroundings. It's not just about you as a leader and your team. It also is linked to the children within your care, and on a wider level, the parents that you are serving, and on an even wider level, the community within which your nursery or your kindergarten or preschool is located. Number 2, it's about teaching to support children's development and learning. So unlike the wrong assumption from parents where they think it's all about whatever they want, it's actually about us as leaders supporting what the children require developmentally, and how they learn. Number 3, it's about planning learning experiences within your chosen curriculum. So it's not necessarily randomly thinking, how can I keep children entertained? It's really about looking closely at your chosen curriculum, be that the British curriculum, a Montessori curriculum, aspects of the American curriculum, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, within early childhood education, whichever curriculum you choose, we're more or less aiming for the same learning outcomes. So it's planning specifically and strategically within the confines of that curriculum. Number 4, assessing children's development and learning. So assessment is key to having a high quality provision. So we're moving away from the planning and implementation to assessing the learning and being responsible in terms of evaluating the progress of each and every single child within your setting. Another aspect of high quality kindergarten, and this term kindergarten, by the way, is synonymous with preschool or nursery school. It's the 5th one would be developing relationships with families, which really means that we are communicating with the children, we're teaching the children, they're learning, they're functioning well within their specific environments, but they do that within the context of family. Family will be different in different places. Where I live and have the privilege of working in the Middle East, families will include siblings, it will include parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, close family, friends, and it will also include the domestic workers within the homes as well. Let's keep going. We have to often adapt the curriculum depending on the ages of the children, which is why I have referred to the pre-K in this slide. The pre-K would be aimed at the younger children between the ages of birth to 3 plus, turning 4. So we're always adapting curricula culturally. We're adapting it to where we live, to the kind of children specifically that we have within our kindergarten, because I could live in a city and kindergarten A within one city will be totally different from kindergarten B within the same city. So it's always having a look in terms of who do we have within our specific setting and not making any assumptions in terms of who or what is brought to the table, but being quite specific and definitive in getting to know each and every family. So we are focusing a lot on definitions because this is research based, and so it's proven information that will move you forward. I've taken a sample from Texas, the Texas Guidelines 2015, and I'll just read these out. The curriculum used in the pre-kindergarten program aligns with the 2015 Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guidelines. The curriculum used in the pre-kindergarten is effective in meeting the identified needs of the enrolled students, including English language learners. It may be that within your setting you have children from different nations, and that's very common in the area of the world that I live in. And so it's always important for us to deliver a curriculum that is relevant to them. So if they're just coming in and they're not native English speakers, then our provision, if it's high quality, will provide specifically for the needs and requirements of those children. Similarly, if they are children of determination or children who have special educational requirements, Again, any high quality preschool or any high quality kindergarten will provide specifically for those needs. Let's look at the teachers within your setting. If you are running a high quality kindergarten, each teacher will be trained specifically in your chosen curriculum. This will ensure the fidelity of the curriculum. Otherwise, it's not authentic. Your kindergarten will have a scope and sequence to ensure that all concepts and skills are introduced. Not only introduced, but reinforced and practiced within the kindergarten or pre-kindergarten years. So those are three elements: introduction, reinforcement, and practice. The pre-kindergarten learning environment should also be aligned to your chosen curriculum. What this essentially means is that if I or anyone else chose to walk into a physical environment, it should be fairly obvious as to exactly what the curriculum is and how it is being implemented. All right, let's look at some core competencies. So if you're wondering what a core competency is, it's basically a concept, a skill, or an ability that we as early childhood professionals or practitioners should learn. And these are skills and abilities and concepts that we should understand and be able to demonstrate. They really are essentially the foundation of a professional development system. So as early childhood educators, regardless of the setting, we should be able to provide direct instruction and care to young children. I'm looking at job titles such as the teacher, the teaching assistant, the provider, the caregiver, the leader, whoever the professionals are within your environment. So let's have a little bit of a recap. What does high quality mean? So high quality would be one on the left column, which is in the lighter green. What does your organization look like? What's organizational effectiveness? So we're looking at the leadership, the strength of your team. How do people access your program? How do they enroll in your program? What are all the contractual terms within your program? So that would be linked to people within your employment. And sometimes settings have contracts between parents and the nursery school. Let's go to the second column in the middle. Structural effectiveness. So the curriculum. How are we monitoring children's progress? What are the qualifications of your teachers? Hopefully they are qualified as well as experienced. I know that is sometimes not the case, but moving towards relevant teacher qualifications is really important. Teacher-student ratios. What does family engagement look like? And remember the importance of reporting and also evaluation. And evaluation would be linked not just to the teaching staff and to the leadership and to the children, but also to the program itself. So as we can see in the slide, organizational effectiveness plus structural effectiveness will land you in a place of high quality. Okay, let's move on to practice. Here's a quote from Woody and Buzz Lightyear. You can't avoid reality. The consequences, but you can avoid reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. So practice is reality within this context. Here are some things for you to consider. I always think it's essential when leading successfully and also within a high quality kindergarten to consider the child, put the child in the centre and to consider the potential of the child. Understand that children will always have to feel safe and secure, and that within high quality, it should be enabled. And consider within a high quality setting the powerful role of play. Here are some other pointers. If we use language development as an example, rich and interesting activities, allow for quiet time so that children can initiate conversation, stimulate interaction among the children, use running commentary, parallel speech. And what that means, for example, is if the teachers are in the environment with the children, say for example they're walking towards the sink to wash their hands, they can voice it. Miss Patricia is walking, I'm going to go to the sink now to wash my hands because I've just finished my snack, or something like that. So we're using language development as an example of showing high standards of practice. Provide books, environmental, print, and other print resources. For where I am, Arabic and English would be important. For where you are, it may be Italian and Spanish, or French and German, whatever is relevant. Be explicit when modeling language, so be simple, let it be clear, and speak naturally. Provide for learning that is interactive and cognitively challenging. There's nothing worse than having a boring lesson within a preschool and for children to just be sitting there not fully engaged. So you as a leader, having practice sessions with your staff and ensuring that these kind of things are present. If you don't have the time to do practice lessons yourself, then it's great to have good teachers paired up with teachers who are developing or new, so that best practice and quality provision can be shared. Here are some other examples. Helping to develop and encourage language by naming, describing, comparing, explaining, etc. And this is a daily thing with language, I believe, development, no matter what the language is. Here are some examples: describing the food children are eating, linking sleep during nap time to sleeping at home, explaining why it's important to clean up after ourselves. Here are some more examples, still on the topic of language: pointing and labeling, having definitions. So everything that's age appropriate though. So for example, if you see the word vine in the book, define it. What is a vine? All right, briefly moving on to our time of reflection. I'm big on implementing. So within a lesson setting for teachers providing high quality, it's always important to start at the beginning. Assessment. Who are the children that we're working with? What are their own requirements? What are their needs? Then on to planning. Then we teach. We observe, which is a massive part of learning. And based on observations, we go back to planning. And then we keep going around the circle again. This is a great example of a curriculum, which I will leave for you to download. And let's have a quick look at this video. And now back to the 3 B's. What did you learn? Now we're at the end. Were you intentional? I hope you were. We've had some form of reflection. And if you have any questions, I really would invite you to email us or leave a comment below. very much for your time.